See who shows up here today. Man, everybody's up in here today. Cool. Peter Gates is here today. Chad and Amy. Serenity Amore. All right. What's going on, everybody? My name's Chuck. I'm an alcoholic. A little bit of a different thing going on tonight. Got in contact with earlier today. Joelle and I got contacted with from Emily and the crew. They weren't going to be able to make it out doing the Recover Out Loud tonight. They'll be flying back from where they're at speaking in I think it's a convention they were at, if I'm not mistaken. So they asked us to step up and do some service work and have a speaker here tonight. And I believe it's Amy, if I'm not mistaken. And here. Amy's unmuted. Okay, cool. Hey, Amy, how you doing? Uh-oh. She's muted.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Everything going good over that way?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. My name's Chuck, and nice to meet you. First time meeting you. Have you shared tonight? Got what, 20 minutes for you to share and the 25 minutes to share.
Okay.
And, Chad, Emily got a hold of us today to run the show today while they're coming back tonight. So it'll be pretty cool to it's kind of different doing this. I'm not used to leading the show too much. So
Okay.
let's see here. Let some people get in here real quick, and then we'll start up and let you speak. So where are you from at, Amy?
I currently live in Fullerton.
Fullerton?
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Illinois. I'm from Illinois by Chicago area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California.
Never been to Cali yet. That's one place I'll probably visit here sooner or later.
It's all right. I grew up here.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a transplant to Illinois, so been here since 92. So grew up on the East Coast, about 14 years of my life. So moving from East Coast to Midwest was quite a culture shock.
Yeah. I lived in the South for a little while. It is California is like its own entity.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of like Florida. When I visited Florida and went down there, it's kind of the same way. It's different places I went to, like Tampa and all that. It was pretty cool. A
Yeah,
little bit of an eye opener.
yeah. I lived in Florida for a little while. It still has it's the South. You know, it's very similar to the surrounding states.
I gotcha. So how long you been in recovery?
I just took 5 years in November.
Awesome. You in any 12-step programs or
Alcoholics Anonymous.
AA? Okay, me too.
So, and no one's really told me what this was. They just said for 12 or for 20-minute share. I assumed it was AA because the party that told Fausto about me is from AA. Am I not supposed to be sharing specifically about the big book, or? Because I don't know that I can do that.
Keeping with the traditions, I try to keep it low key. You know what I mean?
Traditions? AA's traditions?
Yeah, that's kind of I don't try to how can I put this?
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
I
it
talk about
doesn't, the tradition of anonymity is for me to specifically disclose whether I want to
sure,
share if I'm
sure,
an Alcoholics Anonymous, and I don't have a problem doing that. I don't really know how to talk about solution without talking about the book
sure,
or the steps.
sure.
I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding what I should be sharing about.
Well, to me, it would be you sharing your story, and if AA is part of that story in the recovery,
Like, so I
that's
get, I don't, I come from a sponsorship family that's a long line of big book thumpers. I don't really talk about getting loaded. I just don't.
sure,
I do share things so that it, to qualify, but I talk about the book. I quote the book a lot because that's the program that saved my life. So
sure.
I
Me
want
too.
to respect what it is that you guys do, but I've not listened to the podcast. I don't know what rules I should be abiding by or what it is that you guys want from me.
Um, it really isn't too specific. I mean, if you want to keep it general and not go into too much, because basically we have everybody that comes in this actual meeting. It's everybody. It's anybody from in 12 step out of 12 step.
Right.
So it's a
I've been
general
to
thing.
I've been to all A's meetings, and what I've experienced in those meetings is the people share about the program that they use. Um,
Sure.
so what I was anticipating would be just a shorter version of what I would share at the podium, but it doesn't sound like that's what this is.
Hey, Amy,
I mean,
Hi.
you can basically, my name's Joel. Sorry about that. You can basically, this is your 20 to 25 minutes to do whatever you want. If it only lasts
Okay.
10 minutes, that's fine. We'll open the floor for sharing.
Oh, it could
Um,
last 2 hours. I'm a talker. I just don't want. I don't want to. I want to make
that's
sure that
fine.
I am doing what you guys want me to do.
I
Just
gotcha.
share your experience, strength, and hope. You can throw in some war stories. You can tell us what you do to maintain sobriety daily. It doesn't really matter. This is your platform, and it's pretty open and freely
Okay.
based. You can
Okay.
cuss. You can. I mean, it's your time to share how you want.
Well, I'm going to talk about AA and God. That's all I really know how to do. So,
Perfect. I
That's
love that.
perfect.
I love
okay.
that. I'm gonna go ahead and mute again.
So,
Thank you.
well, Amy, I'll let you go ahead and start, and we'll let you share your story today.
Okay. Well, my name's Amy. I'm an alcoholic. I have a sobriety date of November 14th of 2019. I did get sober through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Obviously, it's not the only way to get sober. It's just what works for me. Um, I I got sober and I sit here sober today because my probation officer made me do it. I did all 12 steps in order and I recovered against my will. I had no desire to do anything that Alcoholics Anonymous had to offer me. I really didn't think I needed anything that this program had to offer me. I sure shit wasn't anything like my dad, who died with 35 years sober in this program. And there was no convincing me that I was. I just had a homeless problem, right? I spent a good portion of my adult life living in the normie world and functioning as an upstanding member of society. And I got loaded every day, but I didn't get loaded at work. For most of my adult life, while working, it was mostly drinking. Um, and I remember there was a couple of times my dad tried to, convince me that maybe I should go to AA or that I might have an issue, and it didn't end well for him either time, poor man. But you know, what I've learned through being sober the last 5 years and just looking back on my experiences while I was getting loaded is that you hear about rock bottom a lot. Once you hit rock bottom, then you're done, or rock bottom is when you stop digging, or whatever the euphemisms that are used. But what I've learned is rock bottom is a feeling. We like to believe that our rock bottom or that my problems are circumstantial, but I have an internal problem. I have a God-sized hole in my heart that I'm trying to fill with everything other than God. Um, so what I like
Hmm.
to explain to especially newcomers is that feeling of knowing that you don't deserve the love that you so desperately crave, that feeling of knowing that the air that you're breathing is a waste because your life is pointless and useless, that feeling of knowing that God should have never made you because you have no purpose, that feeling of knowing that if you could will your heart to stop beating, you absolutely would because there's no point to you being alive. That feeling is rock bottom. And you can have that feeling anywhere. I had that feeling uh, laying next to my husband, driving a really nice car with an amazing career in which I made a lot of money. And I've had that feeling in the gutter with the needle in my neck. Um, and you know, we've spent so much time trying to focus on the circumstances that we forget that there's a condition that needs to be resolved within ourselves. So, you know, the story of how I ended up sober, ended up in detox is essentially that I was on formal felony probation. I was checking with my PO regularly, but I was on the streets. I lived in Santa Ana for 3 years on the streets. I lived in homeless encampments, on the railroad tracks, under bridges, things of that nature. And by this time I was shooting up meth. Um, and you know, you couldn't convince me it was because I was a drug addict. Don't you know, when you're pretty like me and you're homeless in the streets and you don't have a boyfriend, you have to stay high so that you can stay safe because you fall asleep, that's dangerous. And it's just like stupid shit. These things that I come up with to convince myself that that I don't have a problem, right? I remember years ago when I was drinking, I would drink on a regular basis. I would do things like I wouldn't drink for a week, right? Because if I was an alcoholic, I would have to drink every day. It was before I had an understanding of how this disease worked and really, you know, um, what it is that happens when you're an alcoholic, right? Because in chapter 4 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is We Agnostics. In the very beginning of that chapter, it says, if you're an alcoholic, excuse me, if when you want to stop, you have little control. Sorry, let me back up. If when you want to stop, you find you cannot, or if when you start, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably an alcoholic. It says or not and. So basically, if I want to stop getting loaded, whether it's drugs or alcohol, and I can't, right, I probably have a problem. Or if when I get loaded, I just go until I pass out or go until there's nothing left or go until I'm cut off, then I probably have a problem. Most of us can say and. I could only say or. When I wanted to stop, I could. And it didn't bother me. I made a decision to stop and I didn't get loaded anymore. But it always had an end date, right? I never had the intention of staying stopped forever. So I play these little games with myself. I would also do things like when I started using meth again after I got my first DUI. I finally got a DUI at the age of 36, and I remember I remember realizing I'm like, if 28% of my blood is alcohol and I could still pass a field sobriety test because I got pulled over for speeding because they had lowered the speed limit. It wasn't because I was swerving or anything like that. And I remember everything about the encounter, then maybe I should be drinking, right? Because if I don't have the wherewithal to know that I shouldn't be driving, that's an issue. So it wasn't long after that happened that I decided, or that I made a new friend on Craigslist who happened to do meth, right? And I started doing meth again. And I didn't seek that out, it just happened, right? So I started using meth because I wasn't drinking anymore. And what I would do is I would get up in the morning and then I would get ready for work and I would do my hair and do my makeup and then I would get high. So it wasn't a drug problem. It wasn't an issue because I got ready first. I didn't need to do drugs as soon as I woke up. So that again was proof to me that I wasn't a drug addict. It was just little things like that. We all have every person that does something maybe immoral or what we think is wrong or maybe against our moral compass, we can justify it within ourselves why we're doing it. It's very rare that people are just evil, being mean and bad just for the sake of being mean and bad. For whatever reason they've provided themselves, they've made it okay. So back to I'm checking in with my PO, and I was sitting in her office. It was a Monday morning, and now at this point she had told me I needed to go to outpatient treatment. I had a 17-year career in medical billing and collections, so I knew the healthcare system very well. And I was really good at bullshitting my PO into believing that I was having problems getting into these treatment facilities because of insurance problems. Because she didn't know what I was talking about, but it sounded good, right? Because I knew what I was talking about. And, you know, I didn't get to outpatient. So she said, okay, well, you need to go to residential now. You've blown that off for too long. So then I didn't get into residential. Several months had passed, and she said, you can't even give me a clean drug test. You're going to have to go to detox. And I remember being baffled by that statement because I had no experience with the rehab or detox world. And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to rehab and rehab is for drug addicts, why the fuck do I need to be sober to get into rehab? That made no sense to me. I remember it was like, what, this is wild, right? So there's a place here in Stanton called the Rock Center. And at that time, you could call on a Monday and they'd have a bed for you on a Tuesday. They were covered by Medi-Cal, which is California Medicaid. And she said, here's the number for the Rock Center. Be in there tomorrow or be in my office. So what that meant was if I was in her office, that meant I wasn't following her directive. So they can't violate you and put you back in jail for getting high, but they can violate you for not following a directive, which is basically doing what you're told. So I had to think about it. And I thought, well, God, I'm really over being homeless. I had known the whole time I was on the streets that when I was ready to be done, I would be done and it wouldn't be an issue getting off the streets because I knew how to have a job. I knew how to take care of myself. But when that time came, for some reason, I couldn't figure out how to get off the streets. They talks about it in the Doctor's Opinion, which is right before the first chapter in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's Dr. Silkworth who is the person that helped Bill W., one of the founders, get sober and helped him kind of understand the medical side of our disease. And he said alcoholic men and women drink essentially because they like the effects produced by alcohol. And it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. It's that simple. I like being fucked up. I like being gouged out, two sheets to the wind, fucked off beyond all recognition. I want my ears to be ringing, my body to be hot. I want to not be able to stand up or I'm going to fall over. Like that's how high I want to be at all times. And that's it. Normal people don't like that feeling, but I fucking love it, right? Because I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. So, but then it goes on to say, although they can admit it's injurious, they can, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. Their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. So what that means is that I see that what I'm doing is probably not good for me, right? My life isn't probably as good as it used to be, or probably not as great as it could be. However, I've surrounded myself by lower companionship. Everybody is around me is doing what I'm doing. All of my friends are homeless. All of my friends are shooting up meth. The ones that aren't are shooting up heroin, and at least I'm not that bad, right? So I start to think and start to believe that the life that I'm living is normal. It replaces this other life, this being a part of society that I used to experience. And I remember towards the end of my time on the streets, I remember thinking to myself how strange it was that 3 years had replaced 36 years of my life, because I was 36 when I ended up on the streets. I was on the streets for 3 years. So right before I turned 40, I ended up in detox and got sober. So I remember wandering around thinking, like, I knew that I could never go back to living in regular society. I knew that I was destined to be on the streets the remainder of my life. And I knew that that was the only place that was fit for me any longer. And I didn't understand why. I was confused. I was baffled by that. And then I get to learn that's just the disease of alcoholism, right? I thought it was because I was homeless. It had nothing to do with that. I'm such a brilliant woman that I have like all of the raging symptoms of somebody with this disease, but I'm the last person to know, right? So I at the time in which she presented me this ultimatum, I really didn't want to be homeless anymore. I was tired of being on the streets. The party was over, it was no longer fun, and I couldn't get out. So I thought about it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not a drug addict. So I can go to this detox. I knew at the time that Medi-Cal covered 7-day detox, 90 days of treatment, and then 4 months of sober living as long as I was in an inpatient, an outpatient program. So I thought, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to go get my feet under me. I'm going to get sober, get my PO off my back. Once I get all of my ducks in a row and I start working again, then I can go back to living my life the way that I want to live my life. Because I was very successful getting loaded and working. I owned a corporation, for God's sake, and I was loaded the whole time. I knew I could do that. I was a very high functioning alcoholic, I guess you could say, if there's such a thing. But then I also learned that this disease is progressive. It's always getting worse. And you'll hear dumb shit, and I don't want to say dumb shit. You'll hear people say things like, oh, my disease is doing push-ups in the parking lot, whatever the fuck people say. And, sure, if that's how you want to think of it, great. But what all it means is that it talks again in the doctor's opinion, it's a manifestation of an allergy, right? So if I'm allergic to something, like I like to use a mosquito bite as an example. If a mosquito bites me, whatever it injects me with, I get a little red bump and it itches because I have an adverse reaction to what that mosquito is injecting me with in order to bite me. And that means I'm allergic. And That's essentially what drugs and alcohol are for me. I have an adverse reaction when I ingest anything that's mood or mind altering. What happens and what I learned, and this is just the science behind it, is that my midbrain is broken. It believes I need drugs and alcohol the same way that I need air to breathe, and I will do anything
Mhm.
and walk over anyone to continue to get loaded. Um, so as my disease changes and grows, you can look at it like your tolerance level, right? So when I first started getting loaded, a couple beers would do me, right? I'm 14 years old. I downed a 6-pack and now I'm puking, right? But, fast forward 25, 30 years, a 6-pack isn't even going to catch me a buzz, right? Like I need a gram shot of meth and I need it straight in my fucking neck and I need it right now and I need it every 2 hours. So that's my disease changing and growing. I need more and I need stronger things the longer I'm
Mhm.
doing this. And the problem with the disease of alcoholism is that manifestation of the allergy, the need for more, that continues to grow and change even though I'm sober. So if I were to go out and get loaded tomorrow, it's quite likely that I would end up on the streets within a month. I'm going to be just as bad as I was when I stopped, and it's probably going to be worse. And it's just been proven time and time again. Um, so when I did my last shot, I obviously I made the decision to go to the Rock Center. I made it a day late, but I managed to get there. And I have, of course, like any good drug addict going to detox, I had to do, get high one last time before I went into the facility. And it was all God's grace that got me there, right? So, what had ultimately happened is that Tuesday came and went. My friend didn't show up with a ride like he said he would, which I was shocked because he was another homeless person and didn't even have a car, and a friend of a friend was going to give me a ride. Wow, amazing he didn't show up. So, I called the Rock Center. I got a bed for the following day. I begged my PO to let me give me one more chance, and she said, "I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Be there tomorrow." She said, "What are you going to do to make sure that you're there and that you don't miss your time?" I said, "I'm fucking homeless. I can take the bus. I'll sleep on the front porch. It's fine." Of course, that's not what I did. What I did was I wasted the night away looking for a friend, and I ended up running into a girl in some like in the cut somewhere while I was looking for my friend who just happened to be going to Stanton, which was about 20, 30 minutes from where I was. And it was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And she took me with her. And I had never met her before. Excuse me, not only did she take me with her, she took me to her friend's house who had a really nice apartment that was converted from a garage. It was like his parents' house. So super nice place. It was me and two of her friends. They got me high all night, and then her friend drove me to the Rock Center. So I went into the bathroom of a bar called the Corner Pocket across the street to do my last shot before I went into the Rock Center. For anybody that slams drugs, right? If you stick a rig in your arm and you hit and register the first time and push the whole shot without issue, that's a fucking glorious moment, right? And that's what happened. And I was super high. I
Mhm.
was like, I couldn't have been higher. If I had been higher, I would have passed out, right? So, but I remember the very first thing that I thought as soon as I pulled that rig out of my arm was, "This sucks." And to be quite honest, in that moment, I knew it had nothing to do with the fact that I was going to detox. I was just so tired of how I felt. I hated the life that I was living. I hated how I felt. I hated that I was um that I felt like I was a waste of space, that I had no purpose. And I just was willing in that moment to give anything to not feel that way anymore. And in that moment, I surrendered to whatever it was I was about to have to do. I luckily didn't struggle with the God concept when I got here. I worked all that out when I was in my 30s. I went through the whole process of, believing that people that believed in God were pussies and they couldn't control their own lives and what have you. Um, but the thing I wanted desperately was to know how to let God run my life. I believed in God. I had as much faith in God as one can when, you really haven't given God the opportunity to show up in your life to have faith in him. And when I say the word God, I use the word God because it's universal and it's easily understood. It doesn't mean a specific person, a specific religion. You can say higher power, whatever you prefer, as long as I believe in something. And I didn't know how to let God run my life. I really didn't. And I wanted him to, because I knew that things would be better if that were the case. I knew that in my heart. And if that's all Alcoholics Anonymous had ever given me, that would have been enough, but I've gotten so much more. Um, the thing is that, there's a part a part again in the big book where it talks about, there's someone's like, well, if I could only believe as he believed, right? If I could only
Hmm.
accept as true the many articles of faith that I can't remember verbatim what it is, but essentially what they're talking about in We Agnostics, they're talking about faith and having faith in God. And it's this idea that it's like, somebody that's like super, has a super strong faith and has super strong trust in God. You're like, if I could just believe like you do, then I wouldn't have any problem. And I remember reading that and I remember thinking of my dad and thinking of my little sister. And I thought, yeah, if I could believe how they believe, then I would be okay. But I just don't have that faith and I don't know how to acquire it. And now today, when I take sponsees through the steps, I'm the person they think of when they read that paragraph. Because today there's nothing that you can tell me to convince me that God is not real. God has shown up in too many ways and too many times in my life, and things are always better when God is in charge. Um, One thing that, analogy I like to make is this. I usually am in a group with lots of people that can raise their hands, but interrupt me if there's anybody here listening that doesn't believe that love is real, right? Um, I've yet to have somebody tell me love is not real. When I ask people, well, how do you know love is real? Right? They say, well, I felt it. Okay.
Hmm.
So show it to me. And then they look confused and put it in my hand. And they look even more confused. I'm like, but you just told me love was real. Like, well, I can't give it to you. It's a feeling. It's not a thing. It's a feeling. How is God any different? God is a feeling. You have to get your own experience through faith and through meditation and through whatever spiritual practice looks good for you or feels right to you. But little by little, slowly but surely, the more that you do it, the more God will show up in your life. Just like when you first meet somebody and you have a little crush, and then you start dating them and you start hanging out with them, then it blossoms into this huge, overwhelming, love, right? To the point where you may marry them and you make babies with them and spend the rest of your life with them. God is the same way. I'm a firm believer that there's no right way to pray or wrong way to pray. There's no right way to meditate or wrong way to meditate. God made you and God knows your heart, right? So however you need to speak with him or communicate with him is what you need to do. Prayer is me talking to God. Meditating is me listening to God's answer, right? I want to slow down and try to see what God might want to be saying to me, right? Um, I definitely haven't done any of this alone. First and foremost, God, has gotten me this far and will continue to get me through everything that I need to get through, right? God doesn't let bad things happen to me unless it's for my greater good. And that's been proven to me over and over and over again. I've been taught how to, through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, depend on God and God alone. I don't depend on my sponsor. I don't depend on myself. I don't depend on my boyfriend or my mommy or my daddy. God is the final judge in everything that I do in my life. And, if I'm a little off kilter and I may not know what to do or what's going on, then, if I have a good sponsor, they're going to refer me back to God in case I forgot. Um, I don't know. Like I said, I could go on for a really long time. There's so many amazing things that I could share about my life today versus my life in the past. But what I can say is that it's through God's grace and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm sitting here sober. So thank you guys for letting me share.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Of
That
course.
was that was that was awesome.
Thank you.
Solid. That was very solid. Um, I'll say a couple things. I'll open up to Joel to say anything if he likes to, real quick, before we open up to everybody else. I like how you talked about the turning point in of making the decisions of where to go when you're out there. And I too, that took me right back when you talked about that, like making those decisions of, I don't want to feel like this no more. I feel like crap. I feel like everything in it, and I feel less than. And Girdley direction is obviously put me in the right path. And I like how you talked about a lot of the Girdley direction stuff tonight. God as I understand it, dog spelled backwards, and a few things I've heard around the tables and around other places. Um, Man, there's just so much stuff you said that was it's so spot on. And I'm sitting here shaking my head yes the whole time I'm doing this, and it's because it's so true. With you said a key phrase. Uh, you gotten more. You got just where you're at, but you got more. There's a key phrase you said in there, and I feel the same way too. I was like, okay, I'm cool with this, but all of a sudden I got more. It's like thinking about the promises that of what I heard throughout the years, and Man, that was a solid speak. That was solid. Hey, Joel, did you have anything to say?
I really didn't have anything to share on that. It was definitely a great share. I appreciate it. I don't know, did she leave? Is Amy still here?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay.
Sorry, I muted myself, but then I realized I can't unmute myself, so I'm gonna leave it alone and just be quiet.
Okay, no worries. No, that was a solid share. I did like the God part. I was complete opposite when I came into the program. I didn't believe in God. I didn't know what I believed in, but it definitely had nothing to do with a higher power. I was the one who had all my success in life. I'm the one who won all those, or I'm the one who accomplished all those achievements. Nothing helped me along the way. Um, and then one day I actually had a for real God moment because I did ask him. I was like, if you're real, show up in my life. And I swear to y'all, I was in my room in rehab and I saw this presence in my room and I was like, holy shit, I got what I asked for. Um, and that was great. And from then on, I pray every day. I know that this doesn't necessarily mean that you believe in God, but I wear this as to where 2.5 years ago, before I got sober, you wouldn't have caught me dead talking about God or wearing a crucifix. Um, and so, yeah, I really like how you touched on that. And I know for some of the newcomers, it can kind of shy them away, kind of like it did me. Um, but it's funny. Like I heard people say that, that people have been doing this for a long time and the things they talk about are real. It may not happen for you right away, but don't quit before the miracle happens. So thanks again for your share. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to open up the table and see if anybody wants to share tonight.
If not, we'll let Amy keep going.
I was going to say if she wants to, she can.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Victor, addict. I just want to
Victor.
thank Joel for stepping up. I was wondering why I hadn't gotten a tag on Instagram. Usually I get tagged, before the meeting starts, but thank you guys for showing up and, doing some service. And then Amy, thank you for your share. It's kind of cool how you weren't really prepared to, speak or whatever, but I think when we're not prepared, and we're just able to like speak what's on our heart versus what we've like tried to prepare for. I think at the end of the day, that's God showing up, right? And he showed up, you showed up, and it was great. I got a lot from it. When I first went into treatment, they handed me a big book, and I was like, well, I don't really need this. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm an addict, right? And I had to realize that everything, the program that I work stemmed from, that the big book is what kind of is the grandfather of all these programs that people are able to work today. And I'm grateful for it. I still have, my original copy from treatment, and I was gifted, a hardcover copy, really nice book from my cousin, and I have that. I need to get back into, reading it a little bit more, because there's just so much in there that could help me. And I just want to, I guess, end with one thing that I heard today. It wasn't really, I guess, recovery based, but when you listen, it's the message, not who's saying it. And this guy said that, if you find yourself on the wrong train, the best thing to do is to get off at the first stop, because if you keep on going and keep on going, it's going to take a lot longer to get off and get back to where you need to be. And I rode that train for a long, long time. But I'm grateful I got off when I realized that I needed to. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Victor.
Um, Hi everybody. I just wanted to check in and just say thank you to Um, Chuck, is it? That's your display name.
Mhm.
And Amy and Joelle and everyone for you know, picking up the slack or, rising to the occasion and leading the meeting tonight. Because this will be my third meeting coming consistently in a row since I came to my first meeting. And this is something that I really look forward to for myself. Um, to like keep me on track and keep me accountable is like, um, I enjoy the Hopeaholics podcast, and like it's really inspiring to kind of get like more of like an eclectic group of people that's like from different backgrounds, from AA, NA, maybe neither, but me personally, um I don't go to AA, and I don't necessarily like follow AA or like the 12 steps or anything like that, but of course I have respect for what it has done for people in recovery, and I always like learn something when I, you know, go to a meeting or talk to somebody that, follows it very, you know, to the point. But I see the value and I see the crossover in all different like forms of recovery, whether that's just taking your own life up by its reins and taking control and reminding yourself that you have control over your life. And also like one big thing for me that keeps me sober is the longer I'm sober, the stronger my faith gets and the stronger my connection to God gets. And, like when you're in your addiction, it can feel like you're a completely different person, like you might not even feel the same way that you did when you were sober. And uh for those of you that don't really know me, which is pretty much everybody, I was sober for 5 months, and it was pretty much the best feeling I had ever gotten in my life because I have been, using substances since I was 9 years old. I'm 25 now. Had a seizure in March, got sober, started running every morning, really dug into my faith and dug into God, and that's what saved me. And I recently relapsed in like August and kind of fell off really hard. But I say all that to say that there's nothing that you can't come back from. And of course, I feel better now that I've been sober for a while. And um, yeah, just checking in. Started a new job. Stuff's been going good. And I always enjoy being in this space with you guys and listening to your guys' stories, and everybody has value. And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kylie. Who we got next?
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
I'm an addict that identifies as an alcoholic. Thanks for the share. Thanks for the share. That was amazing. Yeah, AA is a huge part of my recovery, basically all of it. And yeah, I could relate by when you said that you didn't have a drug problem, you had a homeless problem, right? Well, for me, it was a little bit different, but I like to focus on what was the same. Is I I didn't have a me problem, I had a drug problem. And if I could just quit the drugs, then everything else in life would fall into place. And that sounds pretty logical. It sounds like yeah, if you just quit doing drugs, everything's fine. Well, my problem is I was trying to quit on my own. And I thought like I could quit behind everyone's back and just become this person that I was pretending to be. And my life would just be amazing. Unfortunately, I was never able to quit on my own. And when I finally asked for help is when I I hit one of my many rock bottoms. And that was the one that I really hold on to, because that's what started everything. That's what got me into recovery. And that's what really changed my life. I had some slip ups along the way and had some other types of bottoms, emotional and mental bottoms. But it was that first like cry out for help, realizing that I couldn't do it alone. Another bottom I want to talk about is one that I had in sobriety. It's also like realizing that drugs wasn't the only problem, you know. It was what was in my head that was the problem. And like you said, I have a God-sized hole in my heart that I was trying to fill with drugs. And when I fail to fill that with God, I can fill it with anything. And that's when I get into trouble and I start trying to play God and fill it with other things. But as long as I stay, I say stay. Everyone says stay close to the program, but I think it's more, stay close to God and to like-minded people. Um, and I think that's all I got. Thank you for showing up. Thank you. This meeting is literally the only thing that I can get to at the moment, so it's playing a big part, and it really helps. So, thanks, Chuck, for showing up, and thank you everyone for sticking around. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jesse.
Hi everyone, my name is Alicia. I am an alcoholic and an addict in recovery. I just want to say thank you to Chuck and to Joelle and to Amy for showing up and making the meeting happen today. Thank you so much, Amy, for your share and for being as vulnerable as you were. I just got off a phone call with my mom, and like we've been kind of on the outs for a little while just because like I set boundaries and didn't want to like argue or get into like the old ways. So it's been a couple months actually until she was ready. But like I was just trying to explain just like the way that like our minds work and like the way that I know like the way things are different now that like I've leaned on God, and everything that you said I really related to, and it made me feel understood when like not even 10 minutes before the meeting I felt like an alien. So thank you for that. Um Also, I just wanted to talk about like in the for anybody who's not in the program, like working the 12 steps. So my first meeting ever was an AA meeting. Again, I was, as Jesse just said, identifying as an alcoholic. But that in the promises it says we will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. And like I chuckled, I thought it was hilarious because I would often say like I'll never know peace. And through doing the 12 steps, I did it when I really wasn't ready, like in the beginning of my sobriety when I didn't even want to be, which it helped me. I had one relapse, but I got back on the into the program and I managed to keep sobriety. And then I did it when I hit my 1 year 4 months ago. And like no, all I feel now is peace. I'm going through a lot of people here know like I'm in like a really like high profile trial right now with my ex-boyfriend who's like in prison for like capital murder, where like I have to be on the stand. I've already done one and like I'm about to go into one with like a jury. I'm achieving things at the same time, and like overall like I'm not focusing, dwelling on the past. It's not eating me alive. It's not wrecking my personality. Like I'm staying focused. And like when people say like don't isolate, I am like a very like introverted person, but like my isolating isn't really isolating anymore because it's like a conversation. It's God picking me up and holding me, and that like that feeling and advice, like when I'm isolating, it's time with him, and then I'm able to like pick up and do better. Thank you for the meeting, and thank you for letting me share today.
Thank you, Alicia.
Hey Chuck, how are you?
Going on.
What is going on, fam? Amy, great share. I love how you start off because you're like, I don't know what to say. Like, is this AA? So what I love about Hopeaholics and what I love about, our community that we have here, it's just we built this safe place for everybody. And that's what's so cool. There's so many of us here, different walks of life, using different programs. And so it's basically just like how you shared. You're just sharing like what works for you. And it's relatable to a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So I have always talked about how I love variety in my life, and how we talk about eclectic. I'm probably as eclectic as they come, but I've had a little bit of AA, a little bit of NA. I have this really cool Native American because I'm Native American, partly from my pops. So I go to like a Native American. It's well variety. It's on Monday nights that I enjoy. And I also have my Bible study and my church family that I'm a part of with Set Free and Magic House and Pastor Phil. My NA is with What the Fuck Chuck, who's an amazing person as well with an amazing story. And it's just kind of cool that, I get to take tools from everybody's toolbox. And that's what helps me. Today I'm 204 days free from fentanyl use. And kind of similar to your story as far as homelessness, I had my shit together, Amy, for like my whole life. And I ended up losing both my parents, and I'm an only child. And so my grief was one of the reasons why I turned to substances for the first time ever. And I found myself in a past relationship, and I was trauma bonding, and I ended up doing fentanyl, which was like the second drug I had ever tried in my whole entire life. And I didn't even really know what I was, doing. And so I ended up as a first timer, putting myself in detox, going through program, graduating program, doing all these things. And so now since I've graduated program, I just make it a point to go to these meetings. And like I said, a variety of them. But every day, that prayer, that meditation, like you talked about, I love doing that because it sets the tone for my day. And obviously being there and supporting others along the way, sharing our stories. I always say it's freeing, it's therapeutic, it's great to do because, like I said, someone's going to resonate and someone can relate to something that we say. So it's very empowering, I would say, for us as addicts to be in recovery and to not be embarrassed or to take these couple minutes and not feel shame about where we've been, but to allow people to know, like, hey, you can do it too. You're not alone. That's our whole message in this movement, is to let people know they're not alone. They can do it. This is a we job. Like, it's so important to have a support system and to build yourself, this community of, like we say, like-minded individuals. That way we can reach out for each other and be there for each other. And anytime someone calls me on my phone and, whether it's a relapse or, if they need help, like finding another place to go, I love that. That's what's so cool, is that they feel comfortable enough. First of all, I feel honored for them to call me, let me know these things. And then for us to turn around and try to help them in whatever way we can. So, definitely a great share. I'm so glad that you guys still held down the fort tonight, keeping hope alive. Like I said, we're in this together. So I appreciate all of you guys for still taking the time out, still giving us a safe space tonight. It's very needed because a lot of us do, count on these meetings every Tuesday. And we always look forward to being with each other on these Tuesdays and to get to hear these stories and to get to share and, be here, whether someone's having a bad day or not, like for us to just get in there and be like, hey guys, like pray for me, or, whatever it is. Like, I love it. So I'm glad that you guys were able to still do that tonight. Obviously, if we're local, I just want to throw out that there is the Recovery Out Loud this Friday. That should be super awesome. Usually all our events that are out there for the live recoveries have been amazing. So I cannot wait to be with Chad and Shane and Nat. And also, I think we have a super cool, it's Bam and Danielle. So it's going to be really awesome and amazing. So if you're local, it'll be in San Juan Capistrano, Hope by the Sea. I believe the time is 6 p.m. That's what it usually is. So food and a bunch of stuff will be, I'm sure, raffled off for the Hopeaholics. So if you guys are local, don't forget, I'll be there. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the family that's local there too. So thank you for letting me share, Chuck. Appreciate you. And good job, Amy.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else that wants to share? Well, I mean, to touch base with the Recover Out Loud this Friday coming up on December 13th, it's from 6 to 8, the Hope by the Sea. Yeah, Dan Margaret and Danny Marie will be there. Unfortunately, I don't live in California, but if I was there, I'd go show up and check it out for sure. So I was going to throw that out there tonight too as well. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Man, anybody want to share? Or got plenty of time. I don't think you want to hear me talk for another 9 more minutes for sure. Let's see, we got
Hi.
Leonie.
Hey, I'm Leonie. I'm an addict and I'm from Brisbane in Australia. Um, yeah, I came onto this meeting because I don't know, like I follow the Hopeaholics on YouTube, I think, and listen to their podcast. And yeah, I just wanted to I don't know, go to like a different type of meeting and keep it fresh. So yeah, I'm 21 months clean and sober. And yeah, like the way I got into recovery was through being taken to a women's NA meeting, and like I didn't like I guess like my story was I you know, went through the hospital system. I was really, really mentally ill, and like I didn't believe the doctors telling me to go to rehab. It wasn't until like I got to a place where I saw people that like how were doing it, and like I believed them. So I went to rehab, and like lo and behold, now I'm clean. And um yeah, I don't know. Like I just I guess like recovery is like my first priority every single day, like going to a meeting and doing my step work and calling my sponsor, and I do H&I at some of the local rehabs around here. And yeah, like I was very like I really related to that lady that spoke because you know I didn't really start using until I was in my late 20s, and like prior to that I'd built up a good career and a life and everything, and you know I lost it all from from my addiction. And yeah, now I'm just like in the process of rebuilding everything. And um I don't know, like the program gives me hope and faith that that will happen. Like I was never a God person. I was never raised religiously. But you know, I do try and like incorporate that into my life now. And it seems to be working for me so far. So yeah, it's like really nice to be here with like some different people and like hearing everybody's story. So yeah, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Leonie. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else want to take us home today? Well, Joel, do you have anything you want to add tonight?
No, I don't know, man. I've been pretty silent lately. I think I ran out of wisdom for some reason.
Is Amy still here with us?
She is.
I'm gonna say if she has any
Yes,
anything else she wants to add. If you want to add anything else, go ahead.
Come on. Trust God, clean house, and help others. I don't know. One thing that I do like to share with people in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're new, there is a school of thought that you are supposed to unquestionably follow sponsor direction. There are members of all 12-step programs, members of society at large that don't have your best interest at heart. That not everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous is here to get better, right? Like I said before I started sharing, I come from a long line of big book thumpers. So essentially what that means is that the way that my sponsorship family recovers is by using the instructions outlined in the big book. And the book itself actually says, directions on how precisely how we have recovered are in the book. So there are a lot of things that people share in meetings. There's a lot of things that sponsors have their sponsees do that are not in that book. I've watched people die behind that because they think that they're working the program and they're not. So the better, if you're going to be a part of any 12-step program, know that there's literature attached to that program. The better that you familiarize yourself with that literature, the better you can tell the difference between the program that you're trying to utilize and somebody's opinion. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else want to share real quick or? Well, I'll add a couple things real quick before we close out tonight. How can I say this? And I like how it was worded out, Amy, how put the literature into play. And I too have seen a lot of negativity, I guess it might be the wrong word, that's been portrayed and been used. I thought about my first sponsor the other day. We talked about him with another friend. He's been gone now for about 3 or 4 years. And we went through all the stuff, went through all the literature, kept in touch every day, every week. And he was one of the great, the wisdom he shared and a lot of the things that worked for him attracted me to stick around with him to have the life I got today. And the book that, I come from a place of big book guys too, and women that, man, that they're on point. And I stuck around with the people that were on point, and I stuck with the winners for sure. I didn't get 16 years for nothing, just sitting around, in a chair doing nothing. I had to do the work. And that was a big key for me, is doing the work. Because I always sat around before even coming into rooms thinking everybody's going to give me something. And I get in the rooms, lo and behold, I get pigeonholed to do general service representative, other stuff for the districts, got involved. And then it became to where I had no issue doing it. I got in the middle of the herd and stuck around and wanted to learn from everybody that all the things that they got. Why are they so happy? Why are they so successful? Why is this? And I had no problem asking questions where I had a problem asking questions on how people do things, and be able to ask for help and be able to reach out, where before is like, I got this, I can do this all by myself. I don't need your help. Now I have no problem asking for help for anybody today. And especially the great people I got around in my circle today that don't steer me wrong, call me out on things that need to be called out, and good early direction keeps me on the right path. I too had a problem with God too, coming in. I can agree with that. But that door opened. It's like that creaking door that you walk into a haunted house or an old house that you would hear in the movies. That's how it was for me, is that door just kept creaking open ever so much. And I was able to accept that. So that's all I got for myself tonight, guys. Anybody real quick? We'll go ahead and close it tonight, guys. I want to thank Amy for being here tonight. Thank thank Joel and appreciate everybody reaching out to keep this thing going today, even though they got a busy schedule too. So we'll close it out with the Lord's Prayer. You want to start off, Joel?
Sure. We're doing the Lord's Prayer. Or are we gonna do
And I'm not with it today.
I can't think of what it's called. The Serenity Prayer.
Serenity Prayer. That's what it is.
Perfect. Perfect. God,
All right. God, grant me serenity
serenity to accept
to
the things I
accept the
cannot
things I
change.
cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We'll see everybody next week at the Three Amigos next week.